The prenup sits on my kitchen counter like a loaded gun, and right next to it, the polygraph consent form that will blow up my entire life. 8 months until what was supposed to be my dream wedding in Charleston, and instead I'm staring at papers that will expose every lie I've told Jeff since the night we met. My phone lights up with a text from my future mother-in-law. "Darling, just confirmed the country club for the rehearsal dinner. 200 of our closest friends. So excited to officially welcome you to the family." 200 people. 200 members of Charleston's elite who will all know exactly why the wedding was called off when this polygraph reveals who I really am. I can already hear the whispers at the charity galas, the gossip at the tennis club. "Did you hear about the Whitmore boys' fiancé? 50 men. Can you imagine?" My name is Krista. I'm 31 years old, engaged to the most wonderful man I've ever known, and I've built our entire relationship on a foundation of carefully crafted lies. Not malicious ones, I told myself, just selective truths. Numbers rounded down, stories simplified, a past sanitized for the conservative Southern gentleman who fell in love with the fiction I created. Growing up, my parents only noticed me when I disappointed them. Being perfect was never rewarded, only expected. I learned early to hide the messy parts, the truth, beneath layers of shiny lies. By the time I met Jeff, I'd become an expert at showing people only what they wanted to see. Now there's going to be a polygraph test, an actual lie detector, like something out of a crime show, and Jeff's lawyer has made it clear what kinds of questions they'll be asking. Questions about sexual history, questions about fidelity, questions that will reveal I'm not the woman Jeff thinks he's marrying. I should have known this was coming. Jeff's family doesn't just have money. They have old Charleston money, the kind that comes with estates and trusts and lawyers who've been protecting family fortunes since before the Civil War. Of course, there would be a prenup. Of course, it would be thorough. But a polygraph? That's a level of due diligence I never saw coming. 3 years ago, when I met Jeff at a charity gala in Atlanta, I was a different person. Or rather, I was finally becoming the person I wanted to be after years of being someone I'm not proud of. Regional manager for a high-end fashion house, dressed in a borrowed designer gown, making conversation with people whose trust funds were worth more than I'd make in a lifetime. Jeff approached me at the bar, all Southern charm and old-fashioned manners. "I don't believe we've been introduced," he said, extending his hand. "Jefferson Whitmore, but everyone calls me Jeff." "Krista," I replied, leaving off my last name because it sounded too common next to his. "And what brings you to this overpriced exercise in tax deduction?" he asked with a conspiratorial smile. I laughed, genuinely charmed. "My company donated a shopping experience for the auction. And you?" "Family obligation. My mother would disown me if I missed her pet charity's biggest event of the year." We talked for 3 hours that night. He was funny, self-deprecating, despite his obvious privilege. And when he looked at me, I felt like the only woman in the room. When he asked about my background, I found myself editing in real time. "How many serious relationships have you had?" he asked over our 3rd glass of champagne. 5, I said without hesitation. It was my practiced answer. The one that sounded respectable but not prudish. The truth was closer to 5 times that number, but nice Southern boys don't marry girls with that kind of history. "And you?" I asked. 8, he admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. "I know that might seem like a lot." "It's not," I assured him, fighting the urge to laugh at the irony. 8. He thought 8 was a lot. I remembered my friend Tanya's wedding the year before, where the groom's ex had drunkenly revealed the bride's actual number during the reception toasts. The marriage lasted 6 months. That wasn't going to be me. I'd learned to keep my stories straight, to never drink too much around people who knew me before my reinvention. That should have been my moment, to be honest. To say, "Actually, Jeff, I've had quite a few more partners than that." But I saw the way he looked at me, like I was something precious, something worth protecting. and I couldn't bear to watch that look change to disappointment or disgust. So I became the woman he thought I was. Krista with 5 ex-boyfriends. Krista who'd focused on her career instead of dating around. Krista who definitely hadn't spent a year backpacking through Europe, sleeping with a different man in every city. Krista who hadn't cheated on 3 different boyfriends in college because she was bored and they were too nice, and she was 22 and stupid and selfish. For 3 years, I've maintained this fiction. It wasn't hard, really. Jeff never questioned my stories, never pushed for details about my past. His family welcomed me as exactly what I appeared to be, a successful, sophisticated woman with a respectable history who would make a suitable wife for their only son. But there were close calls, like when we ran into Chase at a restaurant in Buckhead. Chase, who I'd had a 3-week fling with right before meeting Jeff. Chase, who knew exactly what kind of girl I was. "Krista!" he'd called out, his eyes lighting up with recognition and something else. Memory. "Wow, it's been 3 years? Remember that weekend in Savannah?" "I think you have me confused with someone else," I'd said coolly, gripping Jeff's hand tighter. Chase had looked confused, then understanding dawned. He looked at Jeff, back at me, and smirked. "My mistake. You just look exactly like this wild girl I used to know." Jeff laughed it off, but I saw the question in his eyes that night. "That was strange," he'd said. "He seemed so sure he knew you." "I just have one of those faces," I'd replied, changing the subject to wedding venues. But Chase wasn't the only close call. At a Whitmore fundraiser last spring, I froze when I spotted Dylan, yes, that Dylan, across the room. He glanced toward me, his expression shifting from surprise to amused recognition. My heart stopped. Thankfully, Jeff chose that exact moment to steer me toward his colleagues, saving me from another explanation I didn't have. But Dylan's knowing smirk haunted me for weeks. He still had those videos, and now he knew exactly who I was pretending to be. We moved in together after a year, into Jeff's beautiful townhouse in Atlanta's Buckhead neighborhood. I redecorated in the style I knew his mother would approve of. Classic, understated, expensive. I hosted dinner parties for his business associates, remembering everyone's names and dietary restrictions. I was perfect. The proposal came last year on Hilton Head Island, where his family has a beach house. Sunset, champagne, a 3-carat diamond that had belonged to his grandmother. I cried real tears when I said yes, because I did love him. I do love him. That's what makes this so much worse. That weekend, Jeff's mother kissed my cheek, whispering warmly, "You're exactly what we've always wanted for our Jeff. Not like those other girls." Her praise burned more than any insult ever could. She'd built me a pedestal I never asked for, one I'd been frantically trying to balance on ever since. "We should have a prenup," Jeff said a few weeks after the proposal. "Nothing personal, just protecting both our interests." "Of course," I agreed immediately. I had nothing to hide financially. My family's small farm in rural Georgia, some jewelry from my grandmother. Nothing that would raise eyebrows. But then his lawyer sent over the full terms, and there it was, polygraph examination for both parties. "Standard procedure for high-net-worth marriages," the document said, "to ensure full disclosure and prevent future disputes." My lawyer, a kind older man named Mr. Davidson, raised his eyebrows when he saw it. "This is unusual," he said, "but not unheard of in certain circles. The Whitmores are being very thorough." "What kinds of questions will they ask?" He flipped through the pages. Financial history, of course, hidden debts, undisclosed accounts, but also... He paused, looking uncomfortable. "Personal matters, substance abuse, criminal history, sexual history, infidelity." My stomach dropped. Sexual history? Number of partners, history of sexually transmitted diseases, participation in pornography or sex work. He read the list like a grocery receipt. Any information that could be used for blackmail or would materially affect the reputation of either party. I made it to my car before I threw up. The truth is, I stopped counting after 30. It might have been 40, maybe 50. The year I spent in Europe alone would probably double Jeff's lifetime number. Barcelona, Rome, Prague, Amsterdam, a different bed in every city, sometimes a different man every night. I told myself I was finding myself, having adventures, living my best life. There was that month in Barcelona where I stayed with Miguel, then his roommate Carlos, then their friend Roberto, sometimes more than one in the same week. The hostel in Amsterdam where I worked the front desk and worked my way through most of the male staff. The yacht week in Croatia that I can barely remember. Just flashes of different cabins, different faces, salt air and shame mixing together. My college roommate Bethany used to keep a list of all my conquests because I couldn't remember them all. She thought it was hilarious. "Girl, you're going to need a spreadsheet soon," she'd laugh. I wonder what she'd think if she knew I was pretending to be virgin adjacent now. And the cheating. God, the cheating. My college boyfriend David, sweet, boring David who wanted to marry me and have babies and move to the suburbs. I cheated on him with his roommate. My boyfriend after him, Marcus, I cheated on with a bartender who gave me free drinks and made me feel dangerous. And James, poor devoted James, I cheated on him with 3 different men over our 2-year relationship because I was bored and they were there and I could. I told Jeff I'd never cheated, never been cheated on. Told him I believed in complete fidelity, that trust was everything in a relationship. He believed me because why wouldn't he? I'd never given him a reason to doubt me. I've been faithful to Jeff, completely faithful, because he's different. He's the one I want to keep. But how do I explain that to a polygraph machine? There's more, too. Things I did that I can barely admit to myself. The married professor in college. The weekend in Vegas where things got so out of hand I don't remember half of it. The time I was the other woman for 6 months, knowing full well he had a wife and kids at home. And then there's what I wouldn't do with Jeff. Things I'd done eagerly with random men whose names I barely knew. Things I told Jeff I'd never done, would never do, wasn't interested in. He'd been hurt, but understanding when I'd set those boundaries, never knowing I'd crossed them dozens of times before, just not with men who mattered. "It's not that I don't want to please you," I'd told him. "I'm just not comfortable with that." "Of course," he'd said, kissing my forehead. "I would never want you to do anything you're not comfortable with." Meanwhile, I'd done those exact things on camera for my ex Dylan, who still had the videos somewhere. I'd done them in a club bathroom in Miami with a stranger whose name I never learned. I'd done them enthusiastically, desperately, trying to keep men interested who would forget my name by morning. The guilt of that conversation still eats at me. He was so respectful, so careful with my boundaries, never knowing they were fake boundaries I'd created to maintain the image of the woman he thought he'd fallen in love with. The Madonna whore complex in reverse. I'd be the whore for men who didn't matter and the Madonna for the one who did. Last week, Jeff brought up the polygraph over dinner. "It's just a formality," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "My father's lawyers are insisting on it." "Do you want it?" I asked. He paused, considering. "I think it's smart. We're both being honest with each other, right? So there's nothing to worry about." "Right," I agreed, my voice steady even as my heart raced. "Nothing to worry about." "Besides," he added, "my cousin Bradley's fiancé refused the polygraph last year. Turned out she'd been a sugar baby through college. Can you imagine? The whole family was mortified." I forced myself to laugh. "That's terrible." But inside I was calculating. Sugar baby was bad, but was it worse than my truth? At least sugar babies were getting paid. I'd given it away for free, for validation, for the hollow feeling of being wanted for a few hours. Atlanta's circles are small. I'd seen it happen before. One scandal, and you'd suddenly vanish from every guest list, every charity board, every social invitation. Bradley's ex-fiancé had to move to Dallas just to escape the whispers. By tomorrow night, I'll be nothing but a cautionary tale whispered at brunch tables. Remember Jeff Whitmore's fiancé? The one who lied about everything? I heard it was over 50 men. That night, I lay awake next to him, watching him sleep, memorizing his face. The way his hair falls across his forehead, the tiny scar on his chin from a childhood accident, the peaceful expression of a man who trusts completely. I could tell him, wake him up right now and confess everything. The real number, the cheating, the lies. Maybe he'd forgive me. Maybe he'd understand that I'm not that person anymore, that I changed when I met him, that his love made me want to be better. But I know Jeff. I know his values, his beliefs, the way he was raised. His mother has been married to his father for 40 years. His sister married her high school sweetheart. In Jeff's world, people don't sleep around. They don't cheat. They certainly don't lie about it for 3 years. He told me once about his ex-girlfriend, the one he'd been serious about before me. She'd kissed another man at a party, just a kiss, and he'd ended it immediately. I could never trust her again, he'd said. Once that trust is broken, it's gone forever. What would he say if he knew I'd done so much worse so many times, with so many people? The appointment is this Friday. I've taken the day off work, told my assistant I have a wedding planning appointment. Jeff and I are supposed to have lunch afterward to celebrate signing the prenup, move forward with planning our life together. He's already made reservations at the St. Regis, ordered champagne. His mother wants to fly in from Charleston to celebrate with us. The final step before you're officially family, she'd said on the phone yesterday, her voice warm with affection I don't deserve. Instead, I'll sit in a sterile room with sensors attached to my skin, and a stranger will ask me questions that will end my engagement. Have you ever been unfaithful in a romantic relationship? Have you had more than 5 sexual partners? Have you been honest with Mr. Whitmore about your sexual history? Have you engaged in sexual acts with Mr. Whitmore that you've previously engaged in with other partners? No, yes, it's the machine will know. The examiner will know. And then Jeff will know. I've researched beating polygraphs, Xanax, beta blockers, meditation techniques. But Jeff's family's lawyers aren't stupid. They'll test for drugs. They'll have experts who know every trick. This isn't some shopping mall lie detector test. This is the kind the FBI uses. I've thought about running. Just disappearing, leaving a note saying I'm not ready for marriage, sorry for wasting his time. It would be cleaner than the truth. He could tell people I got cold feet, move on, find someone who actually deserves him. But I can't. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the deception, I love him, really love him, not the infatuation I felt with the others, not the excitement of doing something forbidden. This is real love, the kind that makes you want to be better, the kind that feels like home. The irony is that Jeff's love did change me. I haven't even thought about another man since we met, haven't wanted to, haven't been tempted. He's everything I never knew I wanted. Stable, kind, faithful, devoted. The opposite of the bad boys I used to chase, the ones who treated me like I treated others. My therapist, who I started seeing 6 months ago when the guilt became unbearable, says I was acting out unresolved trauma, that my behavior was a form of self-harm, that I was unconsciously recreating patterns from my childhood. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's just an excuse. Either way, it doesn't change what I did. You need to tell him, she says every session. The truth will set you free. But she doesn't understand. The truth won't set me free. It will destroy everything I've built. My relationship, my reputation, my future. Jeff's family would ensure everyone in their social circle knows exactly why the engagement ended. I'd have to leave Atlanta, start over somewhere else again. I've done that before. Left towns when my reputation caught up with me. But I'm 31 now. I'm tired of running. I want the life Jeff is offering. The beautiful house, the children we've talked about, the stability and respectability I've never had. Is that selfish? Yes. Is it wrong? Probably. But I've been selfish and wrong before, and this time it's for something that matters. Yesterday, I went to confession for the first time since high school. I'm not even Catholic, but I needed to tell someone, needed to hear that forgiveness was possible. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned, I began, the words foreign on my tongue. I told him everything, Every man, every lie, every betrayal. He listened in silence, and when I was done, he sighed. "My child," he said, "God forgives all sins, but earthly consequences remain. You must tell your fiancé the truth." "I can't," I whispered. "Then you condemn yourself to a marriage built on deception. That is its own kind of hell." "But Father, I've changed. I'm not that person anymore." "Then why do you still protect her with lies?" he asked gently. "The person you were is still controlling the person you are." He's right, of course. Even if I could somehow pass the polygraph, even if Jeff never found out, I would know. Every time he tells me he loves me, every time he introduces me as his wife, every time our future children ask how we met, I would know it's all built on lies. But the alternative, telling him the truth, means losing everything. And I'm not strong enough for that. I'm not brave enough to watch the love in his eyes turn to disgust, to see him realize that the woman he fell in love with doesn't exist. So here I am, the night before the polygraph, trying to decide between two impossible choices: tell the truth and lose everything, or try to lie and risk losing even more. My phone buzzes. A text from Jeff. "Can't wait for tomorrow to be over so we can focus on our future. Love you." I stare at the words until they blur. Our future. The one I've already destroyed. He just doesn't know it yet. Tomorrow I'll drive to the lawyer's office. I'll sit in that chair. And when they ask me if I've been honest with Jeff about my past, I'll have to decide whether to destroy us quickly with the truth or slowly with more lies. I can already imagine it. The examiner's eyes meeting mine briefly with something like pity before he asks, "Have you been honest with Mr. Whitmore about your past?" My voice will crack as I whisper, "Yes," and the machine will immediately betray me. He'll sigh softly, marking his notes. Let's continue. Each question after that will be another nail in the coffin of my carefully constructed life. Either way, we're already over. The polygraph isn't revealing anything new. It's just forcing me to confront what I've always known. I'm not the woman Jeff thinks he's marrying. I never was. And no amount of love, real or imagined, can change that. The girl who slept her way through Europe, who cheated because she was bored, who lied as easily as breathing. She's still in here. I've buried her under designer clothes and perfect manners, and 3 years of playing pretend, but she's still here, and tomorrow everyone will know it. I pour myself a glass of wine, just one because showing up hungover would make everything worse, and open my laptop. Start typing an email to Jeff that I'll probably never send. My darling Jeff, by the time you read this, you'll know everything. The truth about my past, the lies I've told, the woman I really am. I want you to know that loving you was never a lie. You made me want to be the woman you thought I was. For 3 years I tried, but the past has a way of catching up, and tomorrow it will catch up with us both. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not being brave enough to tell you the truth from the beginning. For letting you fall in love with someone who doesn't exist. For destroying the future we planned. You deserve better. You deserve someone whose past won't embarrass your family, whose truth won't require a polygraph to uncover. Someone who can give you all of herself, not just the carefully edited version. I love you. That's the only truth that matters, and the one that hurts the most. Forever yours. Even though forever ends tomorrow. Krista. I close the laptop without sending it. The unsent email sits there like a white flag, a monument to my failure. For a moment, I let the despair wash over me. Tomorrow, I'll sit in that chair, sensors on my skin, and watch my entire life unravel with each question. But as I pour myself that glass of wine, something shifts. The resignation that's been drowning me all week suddenly burns away, replaced by something hotter, sharper. Anger. At the Whitmores, with their old money and older prejudices, their clinical cruelty disguised as due diligence. Who are they to dissect my life with a machine? At Jeff for not having the spine to tell his father's lawyers to go to hell, for choosing his family's paranoia over trusting the woman he claims to love. At the girl I used to be for leaving me this mess to clean up. But most of all, I'm angry at myself for rolling over and playing dead before the fights even started. I've spent my entire adult life becoming whoever I needed to be to survive. I became a regional manager when everyone said a girl from rural Georgia couldn't make it in high fashion. I became the perfect Southern belle when I'd never even been to a cotillion. I've fooled Charleston society, Jeff's mother, everyone who matters. And now I'm going to let a machine destroy everything I've built? No. This morning, Jeff brought me coffee in bed, like he does every Saturday. "Last weekend before you're officially locked in," he joked. "Sure you don't want to run?" "Never," I said, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted like possibility. He has no idea that his fiancé is done running, done apologizing for who she used to be, done accepting a fate she hasn't earned yet. I've researched those polygraphs. Beta blockers, meditation, microdosing Xanax in amounts too small to detect. Mental techniques that can fool the best examiners. It's not about lying. It's about believing your truth so completely that your body can't betray you. They want to know if I've been honest? I'll give them honesty. My version of it. The version where I'm the woman Jeff fell in love with, where my past is exactly what I've said it is, where 5 is the only number that matters. I'm very good at being whoever someone needs me to be. I learned young that the real me wasn't enough, would never be enough. So I became a mirror, reflecting back what people wanted to see. For Jeff, I became the perfect Southern bride-to-be. Tomorrow, I become something else. A woman who can lie so perfectly, so completely, that she can fool a machine designed to detect deception. A woman who refuses to let her past define her future. A woman who will not go gentle into that good night. They want the truth. I'll give them a truth they can live with. One last performance, the performance of my life.